Hello everybody, it's Thursday and this is the first time I've had a chance to sit down after the workshops and just do a little bit of a follow-up. So in the first workshop we got almost to the point of loading the TV shows and the images, but the images didn't show up properly. In the second workshop I just got this done by the end. So I'm going to sort of do a follow-up from the first workshop stage of the code and debug whatever's going on here, and then do a little bit of follow-up to get it to a point where we can load all the different TV shows that were suggested from the two workshops. And humorously, Friends was the first TV show suggested in both the workshops, which made me laugh. Okay, so what actually happens in this app, if I scroll down, I see images, but they're really big and crazy. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into the storyboard and have a look at this. So in my storyboard, this should not be happening. I have an image view, it's set with scale to fit, so the image should be scaled to fit in this space, and it shouldn't be taking up this space at all. So I'm a bit confused what's going on. I'm just going to set a background color on this and just make them pink, and just rerun this and have a look and check that the layout for this has the right constraints and it's doing what I think it is. Okay, well this looks perfect. There's something strange going on here. Oh, okay, and in fact these are just showing up over the top and they're not even in the same area as the pink. Okay, so this is a nice, I think I know what's going on here. This is a potentially confusing situation for you. So we have our episode table view with these views that we've defined, but it's an instance of UI table view cell, and UI table view cell itself has an image view, right? So it has built into it its own image view that's used for standard table view cells, and this is can be a gotcha if you accidentally use this, that it's not using the one you think it's using. So let's have a look. My one is called episode image view. My best guess is what I'm doing is not using that correctly. So where am I loading the images? I'm saying cell image view. Okay, that's the wrong one. And in fact, it's not even safe what I'm doing here, because I'm just using the cell, which is a reference to a particular cell. But as we talked about, cells can get reused. So because of that, by the time this image loads, if it takes a long time, that cell may now be used for something else completely, not even for the same episode. So this is actually not safe to do at all. I think I probably just put this in as a very quick thing in the lecture to make it work. We're going to set the episode UI image equal to this image if it's set, and then we should just tell the table view to update itself is really the right way to do this. And one of the ways we can do this is we only need to update the cell if it's on the screen, which it might not be if it's scrolled past by now. But if it is, we want to update it. So first thing we can do is we can ask the table view, visible, let visible index paths be equal to table view dot index path for visible rows. Okay, and you'll notice this is an optional, so I need to unwrap it. So I can use my optional binding like I've done many times before, and I can just say if this, then we do something. So if there are visible index paths, we can also say does the visible index paths contain the index path that I'm currently displaying in here, which is just index path. So basically I know what the index path, where this episode lives in the set of episodes, so I can ask if it contains it. If it does, I can tell the table view to reload this. So also when I tell the table view to reload rows at a particular index path, I give it an array. Here I'm just going to give it the index path and tell it to be automatic in how it updates it. Now note, for this row, this is updating the UI. I'm not wrapping this in any way. Please see my forum post that's pinned at the top from today that talks about the difference between different versions of Xcode. This is Xcode 13.3. From 13.3 onwards, you don't need to wrap calls to the UI, but in previous versions you do. And our lab notes include the wrapping in case you're running it on a version of Xcode 13.2.1. Alright, so I'm going to try running it at this point and just see if this works like I expect it to. Okay, well, even now we were not updating the, we're updating the image view rather than the correct view, which is my own image view rather than the built-in UI table view cell one. So I'm just going to look for episode image view. Let's try that. Okay, shows up pink, don't need to show it up pink, but this looks good. And as I scroll, I see that things probably get called, and in a moment they'll, when the web request gets performed, yeah, we see them update. Interesting that some of these don't update. I wonder if I scroll off this one and back. We didn't see any errors, so that's interesting. Wondering if that's something like the web server timing out. We could also have it, if we get any kind of error, or if the image data we get back isn't an image, we can tell it that the episode is no longer downloading, and that way, you know, it could try again and download the image multiple times if the first time it failed, because at the moment we're not printing anything. Like here we can say print not a valid image. We could also throw an error here and catch it, but I just would like to know why those episodes are not loading. So we can have a quick look here and see if it tells us anything. So that looks good. Oh, code after throw whenever. Interesting. So they seem to update or download. So that's season 1, episode 5. Okay, interesting. So that almost looks like something wrong with here when I'm saying does the visible paths match my index row reload. Not sure. I mean, look, this is working now, other than maybe it wasn't updating when it first got them, which is a bit interesting. Let me just check. I don't see anything wrong with this. Visible index paths. Index paths are visible row if it contains my index path. Then I reload those. Oops. That was not what I wanted. With each representing a row index and section index together with identifying a row visible in the table view. This will be at the point, so this could be to do with scrolling and things happening on a different thread. I'm not going to debug this now because I'd like to carry on with the example, but I will have a look at that at some point later. I don't know the answer to it. I guess what I want to do is make it so that I can pass this value in and use it here. So I'm going to make this use this, and of course it's probably not going to let me do this because this is an optional and I can't use an optional here, so I need to guard against this. So I can say guard let show ID equals, actually I think guard let show ID. I can do this one, and it knows if it doesn't have a value, then I'm going to just print an error message and say something like no show ID set. And then in this case we just don't, the view control will just show loading. So I guess that should still work for friends. Let's do a quick check. Yep, that works. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to change this pink thing back to the normal color so it doesn't look too weird. You'll notice that I made it so that the summary cells, the labels are tall enough to accommodate this, and that was just going in here and setting the lines equal to 0. So then if there's long synopses for episodes, it will fill them in. Okay, the next thing I was going to do here was go into my create a favorite TV shows view controller, and I had the suggestions from the 2 workshops, which was Friends, Peaky Blinders, SpongeBob SquarePants, Seinfeld, and House. These were the IDs that we pulled off of the TV Maze app. So then all I was going to do in here was change it so that my root view controller is this view controller, and I can neaten this up a bit, and then have it so that when I tap on a cell, it's going to go to this other view control. So I'm selecting one of the TV shows. And then so we should probably just check what the segue here is going to be called. We're going to call it episode list segue. In my favorite shows TV controller, I'm going to make it so that I use shows count for the number of rows. So this is shows. These are just dictionaries with some values in them. And so here, for the content of my cell, I'm going to set extract the show title as a string and the recommender as a string as well, and set them to the text in the secondary text for the cell. And then when I prepare for my segue, I'm going to I talked about this in the workshop, I guess, of to what I would need to do, is the sender to this method, the prepare for segue, is the thing that caused the segue, which is tapping on the cell. So in this case, the sender will be the cell, but its type is currently any. So I can cast it and do it inside one of these optional binding things where I try and cast it to a UI table view cell. If it can't be cast, it ends up as nil, and this if statement fails. But if it succeeds, I unwrap it. Then I ask the table view for the index path for that cell, so where it is. And then I can pass my view controller the show ID, which I get from my array of dictionary elements, and I'm just casting this value to an int. And if it's not valid, it'll just get passed as nil. So we can try this. Probably we should also go in here and override our friends thing. Okay, so I've got some TV shows here. I should be able to go friends. That looks good. I should be able to go SpongeBob SquarePants. Ooh, we get data couldn't be read because it's missing. Okay, interesting. Peaky Blinders. This one works. We get images. That looks good. All looking good. SpongeBob SquarePants. Oh, we know that didn't load. Well, this is a good case to talk about. And Seinfeld. This one also couldn't load. Great. Okay, so let's do some debugging. House does load, and we see some images. So look, this is nice. It's working. And I didn't talk so much about this in the first workshop, but we did talk about it in the second one, is how do we deal with this situation? So this situation is the data couldn't be read because it's missing. So this basically means we're decoding some JSON and it doesn't have the structure we expect here. Now the way this works is that the code throws an error, this error is caught, and we get the data couldn't be read because it's missing. And where this happens is where we do the decoding, which is just here, and we print an error. You know, I could print a thing that says caught error and do this, and when we run it and choose Seinfeld, you're going to see it says caught error, the data couldn't be read. So this is the error message coming from this being caught. Now it's not particularly helpful, this error message couldn't be read. So what we can do is we can go into our breakpoints navigator, and down the bottom here is a plus button, and we can choose Swift error breakpoint. So this sets a breakpoint on an error being thrown. So this can be useful to us. We can now run this. And choose Seinfeld. And it's going to throw an error for us on the instruction that caused an error. And in this case, what it was it was decoding image data, which interestingly has a space in here. Shouldn't matter. And it's doing this for a key called image. So we're looking in the... No. We can find, in fact, let's find what the code looks like. So I'm going to go to here. And we said Seinfeld, right? So Seinfeld is 5:30. And we're going to go here and go 5:30. All right, so some of these don't have images, I guess. This one does, this one does, this one does, but I guess not all of them have images, so that's good to know. How do we deal with this? Well, the easiest way that we can deal with it is we can cause that thing to not be required, but to be optional. So we've got image data and we've got it here. We can make it an optional. Because we've overridden the constructor, the way that, or the behavior of this, if it can't be found, is that this code here throws an error, and we can either try it and it will be caught by that print statement we saw before, or we can do try question mark. And when we do try question mark, like we did with the summary, if it doesn't exist, then it will happily just set image equal to null. Now this has implications because now our code needs to check that image is set to a value, which we might need to change or we might not. No, we do. Okay, because here we're assuming it has a value. So probably what we need to do is say else if image episode is not downloading, and we unwrap it and say let image URL equal episode dot image dot original. And Because this is optional, we can use this, and if it happens to be nil, then it doesn't even check the value of optional, it just sets image URL to nil. So this code will only execute if it has a non-nil image. So an image URL here. And now if I run this, with any luck for Seinfeld, it will happily load the episodes with images. Ooh, we still get a break. So we still get an error thrown here, but in this case we happily just let it set something to nil. So I can turn off this breakpoint, either by turning off all breakpoints here, or I can go to my breakpoint editor and I can just turn off the Swift error ones and tell it to continue. So now it loads Seinfeld and we see images. Interestingly, they look stretched because this is in 4:3, so we can fix that in a second as well. And if I go back to, what was the other one that didn't load? How SpongeBob SquarePants didn't load. Oh, did we still get this breakpoint? Because we still got a breakpoint here, I don't know why. I'll just let it run without the breakpoints. And you can see it now loads, and interestingly, none of these images load. How interesting. So this might be one we want to have a look at and see what's going on here. So, SpongeBob SquarePants was 713. Let's just have a look at what is returned by this. Okay, so here you go. There's just no images for SpongeBob SquarePants because we get null for each of these. So there you go. You've seen how we can deal with it. And if we wanted to, we could reset the size of the constraints for that image view and have it disappear. I'm going to fix the 4:3 thing. So in here we can go into main and choose my image view. And I can say scale to fit, or I can say aspect fill. Aspect fit, aspect fill. I can't remember which one it is. So this is where I might have to have a look at UI image. So we can go to our documentation, choose UI image. It's got a content type, which I can look for. Content. Scale. I can't remember what it's called. I have to look for it. Scale, image orientation, resizing mode. Okay, I think it's this one. So let's have a look at resizing mode. Tile stretch. No, that's not it. Oh. Image and scale, getting the image data. Oh, you know why? Because this is UI image, not UI image view. So I need UI image view, and in UI image view, okay, understanding how images are scaled, content mode property, and then we have scale aspect fit, scale aspect fill, scale the image to fit or to fill the space while matching the image's original aspect ratio. Okay, so if we do fit, it could have white bars on the side. If we do fill, it'll fill the space, but it will cut off some of the outside ones. So we want to scale to fit, so we're not cropping things off the top and bottom. So we'll choose aspect scale to fit, aspect fit, and run this. Okay, and you can see some of them have just different aspect ratios. All right, great. I'll leave it there. I'll put the code of this up on Moodle. Thanks for watching.